Ahmer here. So today I decided to switch some things up and I wanted to talk about something that many of us probably never want to think about or even experience, especially if we're video game collectors. So let's go ahead and talk about that. So this is something that a lot of people have been asking me recently, and I felt like this was the perfect time to go ahead and talk about this. With me actually hitting 8,000 subscribers on my channel, I just wanted to thank everyone, and I wanted to read through some comments, and this comment was actually talked about. So if you guys are enjoying this content, make sure you hit that subscribe button and hit the bell notification so that you never miss out. So let's just go ahead and jump right into it. What would you do if there was some sort of fire or some sort of flood and you could only save a certain amount of items? Or particular items in your video game collection? Would you go for items that are worth insane amounts of money? Or would you go for items that you just probably could never replace? So first of all, the first item that I would have to save, this right here is my childhood Nintendo 64. This jungle green Nintendo 64. This definitely sparked the joy of like collecting video games, playing them, even though this is not the first console that I've ever played on. But this one right here means so much to me. I would never be able to replace all of the memories and the joy and the gameplay and the amount of hours that I've spent with friends and everything else playing these games. And I would definitely have to grab a couple games as well. So these right here, playing Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2 on this Nintendo 64. These are my childhood copies right here. Even probably some others like Donkey Kong 64. Just a few other like odds and ends I would definitely have to grab for the Nintendo 64. Now I know what some of you guys are thinking. Why would you pick something that is like so essentially worthless in value? Well, to me, that essentially means the world to me. It means everything, so I would definitely have to save that. And then next up, I would have to go for some sort of video game, display, some sort of like promotional item. And of course, it's for the Nintendo 64. So that red Nintendo 64 sign that I actually picked up, one of the very first videos on my channel. Just something where I got that awesome box as well that came with it, shipped directly from Nintendo. So that light right there, I know it has definitely went up in price since I've bought it, years and years ago, probably like 5 years ago. And that was one of the first lights that I have acquired, along with some of these other, like the PlayStation 2 neon sign and several other lights in my collection. But that one is just so beautiful. It really ties my Nintendo 64 collection together. Definitely means a lot, and it kind of like sparked that whole entire notion of buying all of these different displays, promotional items, just all kinds of cool odds and ends. And I actually made some connections with people. Back when I purchased that, I made a connection with a buddy of mine, and he has since hooked me up with all of these different video game items since then. So I'm just so thankful, so appreciative, and that one definitely has to be my number 2. And then of course, this guy right here is kind of like poking through the background. The Mario statue. Now this thing really doesn't even weigh that much, it's just kind of like the base on it, but the statue itself is actually like hollow and it's so light. So that would actually be something that I think I probably could realistically get out in the event of some sort of like tragic, experience in my game room. But this one right here means so much to me. I actually stumbled upon Mario. I was actually like on vacation, visiting some game stores, some toy stores, saw him in the front window, and the owner was willing to make a deal with me. Of course, we worked out something. I got it for like a fraction of what it even goes for today. And it's just so cool. So like a kind of a bad story with that. So as we actually got it into the vehicle, a flat tire happened. And then as we're like standing on the side of the road, Mario's just kind of chilling there. And I'm like, how are we going to fit the messed up tire back into the car? And of course, someone stopped. They helped us out, changed the whole tire and took care of that. But of course, it was like so hard to figure out, like, do we leave Mario? Do we leave the tire? How do we make this work? But it ended up all working out. Everything fit in the car, and I was not leaving Mario behind. And on top of that, as the guy was helping us change the tire, it just started like downpouring rain. So it was just this like craziness, and the only thing that kind of like kept us laughing and, motivated and everything was Mario in the back of the car. So that was definitely a fun time, a great little experience where you could see that like, even though bad things are happening, it's like video games are always there, and there's just always these like joyous moments. So I would definitely have to keep the Mario statue. And then this guy right here, this would have to be my number 4. So back when I started collecting video games, I started getting into Nintendo 64. I wanted to collect all the different console variants pretty early on. I wanted to go for a full set of Nintendo 64 games. Since it was like deep to my heart, I really wanted to kind of experience what they just had to offer with all of these Nintendo 64 games, systems, controllers, etc. And when I purchased that light from a buddy of mine, he actually showed me this. Now, if we fast forward about 5 years or so, that's where we're at when I actually picked up this awesome prototype. So it finally left his video game collection. He wanted to pass it along to me. I was able to work out a great deal. I'm super thankful for it. And I had screenshotted this image that he had sent me like over 5 years ago. And the day that he asked if I wanted to purchase it, I knew it was meant to be. I'm so thrilled to have this like beautiful piece of Sprocket, which it no longer goes by that name because of a licensing issue. So Rocket Robot on Wheels. This is the prototype for this Nintendo 64. This one is worth a little bit of money, but I'm not just doing it for that. It's because this just is something that I wanted for so long, and I finally got it, and I'm super thankful, and I'd love to kind of explore and see how this is a lot different than the actual, released game of this, so like the consumer version of Rocket Robot on Wheels. Now on to number 5. So this one was a little bit hard to kind of just like limit one thing, so I'll just go ahead and talk about a couple things, but they're all related, so you'll get the point. So, Sega items. And when I say that, I mean that really cool Walmart Sega store display cabinet. Not the one that I picked up at Southeast Game Exchange. We'll get to that one in just a minute. But the one that I actually stumbled upon like 6 years ago or something, or 5 years ago, when I started trying to get into, video game displays and different parts of video game collecting. I actually saw that really cool, like, kind of like square style one, and it has like the 2 little spinners on the front, so you would have different games in there. You could like spin it around to see what the back of the case actually said. You'd call a Walmart employee over, they'd use a key, they'd open it up, they get the back stock out, and then you pretty much make your purchases for those games. And at the bottom it says Sega, and it even says like new releases and things like that on it. Well, that cool display, I did not know that it was going to be, so rare in today's time, something like harder to find. And I've definitely learned to appreciate that, and I can't believe that I found it on Craigslist. It sat up for like 2 or 3 months before I even met up with the person to buy it, and they only wanted about $100 to $200 for it. And when I got there, such a crazy story, I actually borrowed a truck. It started raining, it was super hot out, but I had to keep the window down. The windshield wiper stopped working. It was like this whole entire bad experience. But the second that I saw that Sega display cabinet, I knew that things were going to be great. The guy even knocked off like $50, and I think gave me some Atari stuff as well. So totally was not like a loss. But that was such a cool experience, and then just kind of like thriving and wanting more and more Sega items. Like that glass cabinet, that Sega cabinet that I got at Southeast Game Exchange. That was a fantastic time. Definitely made some deals there, and to go ahead and seal that deal before I left and had everyone carrying that item out to my car. It barely fit in the car, but it was meant to be. That was so perfect, and I'm just so thankful. And then along with the 2 signs that I kind of have, one's on top of the cabinet and then the other one's right next to the other. So that Sega neon sign that says like coming soon with the whiteboard, that's definitely a pretty cool one. And then even the Sonic the Hedgehog store display light. So if I could like group all of those together, I definitely would try and save all of those. Now I know that like the weight and, the different bulkiness, those would probably be a little hard to save, but I would somehow make that happen. And then as we're talking about some other larger items in my collection, I would have to say number 6 would be my Carnival arcade machine. There's something about those arcade machines that I just love, and I have quite a few of them in my house. So I have the Virtua Cop 2, I have Crisis Zone, which is like Time Crisis, Crisis Zone, where you have that foot pedal action, the machine gun. You know, it's just so much fun playing those light gun games. And then Carnival. So that is a game that I always wanted in my collection. They never made it to a video game system. It was only playable in an arcade. And there used to be a particular arcade that me and my family would go to. So back in the day, me and my brother would leave the rest of our family at the breakfast table at this whole entire, like, you know, on vacation spot that we went to. And we would just wander away to the little room where they had all these arcade games. They had, you know, some claw machines and some other things. And they had a Carnival machine. And we saved up all of our quarters. And we would just continue playing this game. And we had so much fun. And we just continued this tradition for so many years. So, when I saw that game in a video game store, I decided that I had to purchase it. Now, I didn't know how I was going to get this item home. So I decided to come back the next day with another truck that I was able to borrow, brought my brother with me, and he was able to pretty much like lift up the entire cabinet, the entire arcade machine into the truck, and we went and we got food right after. We got some like burgers, and we just had a blast. It was just so much fun, kind of like reliving all of those different memories of that arcade machine and then bringing it home, getting it set up, and just playing it for hours. Then number 7, I decided to kind of group these two items together since they're the same. The Dreamcast Kiosks. So adding both of those Sega Dreamcast Kiosks into my video game collection, they are probably among the most, you know, playtime that I have in any kiosk that's in my collection. I just love how they sound. I love how like small they are. I love how easy they are to transport. The base does like detach from the top part, and you could just easily move those kiosks. But they're just so awesome looking with the black, the white, the orange. They're just really cool looking displays, and I just love them. I always have Crazy Taxi going in one, Marvel vs. Capcom. I just have a blast kind of having all of these games set up in there. Have the discs, you know, right nearby so that if people want to kind of exchange some things out, they can just continue to play it. But I've played so many different people, you know, in the game room on the Sega Dreamcast kiosks, and they're just so much fun. So I would definitely have to at least save those, and those are among my favorites. Then, of course, last but not least, number 8, as we are doing a thankful for 8,000 subscribers, I figured that I would talk about that really awesome Mortal Kombat 2 standee that I have. The one that's like a couple feet taller than me. So that thing is just massive. I think it's about like 7 foot or something. And it came with the original shipping box for Mortal Kombat 2. It has those big images of the game itself, like kind of like snapshots from the game. It has all of the different systems at the bottom that it was released for. And I just remember playing that game so much, especially on the Super Nintendo and even the Genesis, and then of course on like the handheld systems. But I really love playing that game in the arcades. Just something about playing those arcade games, having so much fun, kind of like playing against one another, those beat 'em up style games, the story with it as well. Just the cool characters, the cool fatalities. I just love that game. So, Mortal Kombat 2 is probably what started it for me with the whole entire Mortal Kombat franchise, and it just stuck with me to this day. So I would say that that is another item that I could just not get rid of. Now, of course, there are tons of other items in my collection that I would also probably never get rid of. I mean, let's face it, I probably wouldn't even sell some of like the really inexpensive stuff, because I just appreciate and love everything, and everything kind of has like a story behind it, whether it's something that I've played, how I've acquired it, or like how people enjoy it when they come over to my game room. So I just wanted to go ahead and just talk about that and have you guys thinking, what are some items that you could not live without? What are the first items that you would save if there was a fire, a flood, or something tragic like that, and you had to make that decision? And I just wanted to shout out everyone who leaves these comments below, as I definitely do get back to them, and, you know, we could potentially make some videos on that. So just let me know what you guys would like to see. So, of course, thank you guys for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe. Go ahead and check out my other videos, and stay tuned for more.